But what I like about Russ the most is he's my mirror image. Look at him. Fun. He's a fun guy. He's a smiley guy. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. He's full of energy and enthusiasm. So please, let's give an icebreaker welcome to Russ Reddoch.
There is a difference between 7 campaign stars and 7 tours, like a few years and a few locations. Boy, I love Toastmasters. I get such comments when I walk out of the room after one of my speeches. You know, I didn't understand a word you said. Why does my brain always hurt? I wish you would use small words and eschew obscuration. My notepaper chair is filled with comments for wow, women opposed to waste, warships on watch, weapons on watch. That's what happens when you give me a short letter word. I love economics. There are few people in the world that write books, and I read them and I admire them, and one of them is Thomas Sowell, who writes a great, prolific number of books on economics, and of whom I say, and if you know my ego, you know this is a profound statement. I've disagreed with him. I have disagreed with some things that I've read in his books, but I suspect I'm the one that's wrong. He's a very excellent writer. People refer to economics as the dismal science, and you know why they refer to it as the dismal science. There's no free lunch. Every time you choose to do X, you're choosing not to do Y. The cost of doing X is the cost of all the alternatives that you've forgone. The art of politics is to some extent the art of making you think it's free. How many times have you heard people say, we got a government grant, it's free, we got a government grant? Well, let me figure this out. How did we get a government grant? We sent tax money to Washington. The processing system charged a fee to process it, and we sent part of our money back. It's free. We gotta go. And there's an art to doing things. You know how the Navy jokes about the Air Force. The Air Force, you've heard that organization? When the Air Force builds a base, they build the officers' club, the golf course, the enlisted barracks, the recreation center, and then they show up and they say, we ran out of money to build a runway. Can we have some more? Of course. Can we have some more money? Of course. But seriously, when you listen to the government very often, you get the same feeling. We've spent money on the things we want to. We spent money on paying off our supporters, and we need more money to do the things that we should have done instead. Little Rock's going to have a tax increase vote. Little Rock's going to have a tax increase vote. We need more money. Have you ever heard a government come up and say, we're collecting too much money, it would be used better in the private sector, it would be used better if you kept it? I don't think I've ever heard a government organization say that. Government organizations are born and live forever. I still remember the excise tax they put on telephones in World War I to raise money to cover the war. The excise tax that was going to die when the war was over, and it's still there. The leather control board that was established to control leather because it was a vital war resource for shoes and harnesses and things like that. It's still there. oh boy, it's just, you're going to hear a lot of sound bites. You're going to hear a lot of sound bites. I ask you and invite you to direct your attention to a search for facts. You probably won't hear a lot of facts on the tax issue, either from the pros or the cons. I already spotted one error on the part of the cons. The big error on the part of the pros is that they ignore a simple fact. Money is fungible. Oh, I love that big word. You all understand what that means? It means you can use money for any way you want. So if you get some extra money for A, it means you freed up money for B, which is what you really want to spend it on, without having to say, I want to spend money on B. Frequently during wars and political conflicts, you'll hear people say, we're sending humanitarian aid to the rebels, medicines and food. We're not supporting the war, we're just supporting humanitarian aid. They probably want to feed their troops, regardless of whether you send money or not. And the troops probably expect some level of medical attention. So what you've done is freed up the money they would have had to spend for that to spend it for something else. What do you think people fighting a war are going to spend extra money on? Might be guns. So you've actually funded guns. And I listened to some of these statements. One of the statements that came out, I think they took it off their argument. We have a contract with the police. We have to give them 5 cost of living increases and 2 pay raises in the 5-year contract, and we can't afford to do it unless we get a tax increase. Well, ignoring the fact that they've covered current raises by understaffing the police department, why did they sign a contract they can't afford to pay? I wish I could do that. Hey boss, I just bought my new Mercedes-Benz and I got this contract and I can't afford to make the payments. I need a pay raise. I need a pay raise. So think hard about what you're really giving money for. Some of it's important, and that's what they need it for, not what they're really spending in the Mr.